All right, good day, everyone. Yesterday we talked about imaginary numbers and kind of dealing with situations that we couldn't necessarily solve because something's imaginary. Well, that's going to directly relate us into what we got going on today. Our goal for today is going to be solving out problems in which we don't really have to factor, but we do have to solve it out and actually work through it. Okay, so that's going to be our main goal today. Is we're going to be actually trying to solve for x in certain problems. Okay, what we're going to be thinking about moving forward is what happens if something's not factorable. Okay, if I can't use X method, how do I get my answers? Well, over the next couple of days and actually probably the rest of this week, we're going to be talking about ways we can solve it out without necessarily using our actual X method to solve it. Okay, so let's go ahead and work through this. All right, so first and foremost, what we got to think about is how do we actually solve something like a problem like this? Okay, 2x squared minus 98. And the idea I want you to think about is as long as you have a single x in the problem, notice how there's just an x squared here, I can simplify it simply by just getting the x by itself. Pretty similar to how we always used to solve x equations, okay? Notice an example over here, they move the 98 over, they divide out the 2, and then whenever you have a squared and a number, to get rid of that squared, I'm going to square root both sides. But the key thing you have to understand once we square both sides is this little piece of information right here. When I square both sides, it's not going to be a single answer. It's going to be 2. That's why we're allowed to use this method, okay? Because you remember back, whenever we have an x squared, we usually get 2 answers. Well, the idea is that this creates that 2 answer idea. If I take the square root of something, then both the positive and negative values can be the answer. Okay, the idea kind of strains from over here when I have like x squared equals 4. Well, the square root of 4 is going to be 2. Okay, but the square root of 4 is also going to be negative 2. And the idea I want you to think about is 2 times 2 would give me 4. Negative 2 times negative 2 would also give me 4. Okay, so if I want to simplify it, I just have to use both those values and get to my final version of it. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about some of these. In the Try These A's section, we're just going to quickly go through some of these examples and work through it. Okay? Well, let's start with this one. X squared minus 25 equals 0. Okay, well, if I wanted to solve this, I'd actually have to work it through and get x by itself. Well, if I were to do this, I would add the 25 over. This would be x squared equals 25. And now that I got the x squared by itself, I would take the square root of both sides. If that didn't do that there, hold on, let me clean this up. $25. This is a squared here. To get rid of that squared, I got to take the square root of 25. That would give me positive and negative 5. Okay. Now the idea is as simple as this. If I were to take 25 and multiply, or excuse me, if I would take 5 times 5, that would give me 25. If I do negative 5 times negative 5, that would give me 25. Okay. Now the same idea can be applied over here. If I have 5x squared minus 16, what I would do to simplify this is I would work this out. I would get 5x squared equals 16. Then I'd have to divide this 5 out to get x squared equals 16 divided by 5. And then when I square root a fraction, this would become the square root of 16 over the square root of 5. Now you're probably wondering, how do we simplify fractions? Well, to simplify fractions, simply put, I just have to try to simplify where I can to start. Well, the square root of 16 is just going to be 4 on top, and the square root of 5 is going to be on bottom right now. And then the basic rule is that I can't have a square root on the bottom. So I'm going to simplify this by moving that 5 on top. That would cancel out the square roots on the bottom and leave me with 4 square root of 5 all over 5. And then the one thing I can't forget is that this is both positive and negative. Now, the reason why we don't just plug this in the calculator and simplify this is just because the decimal is going to be long and a rounded number that we really don't need it, okay? Now, if you were to solve it out in the calculator, that would be fine. Okay, I would accept decimal answers, but just something you kind of understand and kind of work through, okay? So let's continue on. What happens if I get a problem like this, where I get an answer similar to what we see on the screen? Okay, what happens if I have a number with x on the inside? Okay, we've seen similar problems like this before, especially when we factor. We always get like an x plus 5, an x minus 5, things like that, right? Well, how do we solve the problem like this out? So let's go ahead and kind of just discuss, like, what do we actually have to do here? Well, if I'm going to solve this problem out, first and foremost, I'm going to get rid of that 2. Okay, I got to get rid of the 2. I can't touch anything inside a parenthesis unless it is by itself. So I'm going to divide out that 2 to get rid of it. And that would give me x plus 5 squared equals 16. Okay? Now from there, I want to get rid of this squared. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. That would give me x plus 5. And this is where the key thing comes into play, both positive and negative 4 after I take the square root of 16. Okay? Well, now at this point, I got to work at 2 different routes. I have positive negative 4 here, and I have a plus 5 over here. Well, simply put, I can't just subtract the 5 and leave it put, because I got technically 2 answers sitting right here. Okay, I got a positive 4 and a negative 4. So what I got to do is I got to break this up. This is x plus 5 equals 4, and x plus 5 equals negative 4. Okay? Because I have 2 answers there. I want to get my 2 different portions. From there, I'm going to subtract the 5 on each side to get x equals negative 1. And then over here, I'm going to subtract the 5 to get x equals negative 9 as my 2 separate answers. Okay? And that's kind of the main idea of this lesson. All right? Not trying to beat around the bush, not trying to like make things more complicated. Our goal is simply put, we're going to start solving things out. So we're really going to be testing our algebra skills. Now we're going to be going through this over the next couple of days. We're going to make sure that we feel confident on this material. We're going to go over it in class and probably have a little bit of work day on it. But that's kind of the main idea I want you to think about. We want to be able to work this out to get to this point and then simplify where we can. Okay? Besides that, if you have any questions, make sure you let me know. We'll be going over this in class tomorrow. I'm happy to see you there. Have a great day.